Them.
Good morning. Today is April 16th. It's 10:30 a.m. This is the first meeting of the Whitman Aid to the Elderly and Disability Taxation Fund Committee. That's a mouthful. We got to come up with something for that.
Abbreviation.
Yeah, I'm John Galvin. All members are present. I'm John Galvin.
I'm Ryan Trussell.
John Noska.
Sharon LaPiccolo.
Ken Layla.
Awesome. All right. Let me finish putting my handouts together here.
All right.
One for you.
Thank you. Here we go.
One for you and Sharon. Thank you, John.
All right.
All right. So,
Before I trickle the wires.
discussion really right off the bat. Obviously, we want to organize the committee. We have to have a chair. We have to have a clerk. Question is, as a 5-member committee, we probably want a vice chair, I would think, just because we can.
That's my suggestion.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Be a chair, vice chair, clerk, and who'll take the minutes?
That would be the clerk.
The clerk will.
Yeah, the clerk will. So, we've got the recording here. Thanks. That one's ours. So I appreciate people who brought one, but we do have our own now. So,
Good. I make a motion to nominate John Galvin as chair.
I second.
All in favor?
Yes. Yeah.
all right. Thank you very much.
Hey, you got the laptop. You got the chair in there.
I got it. All right.
You got all hands.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that, and I absolutely accept. So, nominations for vice chair. Anybody?
Oh, I'll take it.
All right. Great.
All right. So I nominate Ken Lawler as vice chair.
Second it.
Second.
Thank
All
you.
right. Anybody else? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Unanimous. Clerk. Nobody's jumping at it. I think I'm able to do both. I don't know if that's
You can probably wind up doing it reflecting off the recording.
right.
To do the minutes.
So
The minutes
if
may not be that detailed.
I don't think it's an issue that the chair and the clerk are the same person, as far as I know.
At this point, we can just leave it the way it is. Leave it that way.
Okay.
And if it gets
I'll-
convoluted or problemsome, then we can
Yeah.
nominate a clerk.
All right.
That's
So
my suggestion.
somebody want to nominate me for the clerk, and I'll do it.
No? Okay.
I nominate John Galvin as
Second.
clerk.
Okay.
There you go.
All those
All
in favor?
Aye.
All right. Unanimous.
Lucky man, I told you.
All right. All right. So that's all right. I mean, I have the recorder. I know how to deal with all of that. So, all right. So next on the agenda, objectives on structure of the process. So on the top sheet that I handed out, it lists across the top the things that I found all these other towns that had this fund had to just make decisions on. So first thing, minimum age, and let me start by saying, let's not make any decisions today. Let's just talk about it and maybe talk about some of the things that the other towns are doing. Then in the packet is things that I printed out from all these towns.
Beautiful.
So applications, what their what their definitions are, income limits, things like that. So we'll take our time, and when we schedule our next meeting, we'll make some decisions. But at this point, minimum age is obviously one thing we need to start, and there's different. Pretty much 60 or 65 has been the consensus across these different towns. You'll see Hanover there. Hanover has had this for several years, but it doesn't look like they're very active. So they have a page. It didn't really have any kind of information on it other than it said who the members were, but doesn't look like they have much going on. So those other 5 towns are pretty active, especially Hingham and Easton were the most active. Duxbury, I found out, was voting. So they're voting this.
How about Hanson?
Hanson does not have one.
Rockland?
Rockland, I think,
Abington?
have it. Abington did not, at least what I found.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's in Marshfield too.
Marshfield, possibly. I didn't see. I mean, I searched and searched and searched different ways, and these towns kept
We can
popping
make
up.
calls probably to contact those maybe, Rockland, Abington, and see if in fact they have
Yeah.
a program, maybe not as active, maybe they're inactive, but if they've established some sort of format
Right.
and to see what happens.
But also, I would say if through all your research you couldn't find the information, they might not be committees we want to be emulating.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
They're not.
Yeah. True. Good point.
You can't find
Yeah.
if you who's really looking can't find the information about it, then maybe
Right.
they're not worth.
No, I hear you.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
I think those towns, though, because they're similar to
Right.
Whitman, would be good.
That's
Where
what I'm saying.
Hingham really isn't similar. Easton really didn't look like. That's why I kind of included
Plymouth too.
But Plainville and Seekonk were similar to
Yeah.
us. Not necessarily geographically, but they seemed about similar to us in size, and it's hard to tell income wise, other than when you look at some of the income requirements. But anyway, so years of residency is another one that kind of jumped around a little bit. I have my personal opinions, but we'll wait till we get to that going down. Income limit seems to be the one that's going to be the real one we're going to have to focus on the most, in my opinion, because a lot of them are tied to the median income level of the town, which is a good starting point. But then some of them just say, here's your limit. It's just that. Others tiered it by how many were in the household. And then, it was just different. And obviously, 80% of Hingham's income is way different than 80% of Whitman's.
Right.
But that's a good way to kind of look at it, is because it will, whatever we're at now, if you leave it at that, it's going to still be 80% of whatever it becomes. I know for a fact that the income level of Whitman has gone up pretty significantly in the last couple of years, as you guys have probably found out. Certainly their household, the price of homes, but that's not, I didn't find any that the home itself.
No,
There was one that
that would trigger.
that the household had to be lower than the average household value of the town, which I thought was interesting. That, if you're somebody living in a big house that's valued more than the average of the town, but you qualify other ways, it's something we can talk about and see.
Yeah.
If that's something we want. I think there was one town that did that. Seekonk did that. It must be assessed below medium value for the prior tax year for the household. It was Seekonk that did
We
that.
could always use the assessments that they have on, John would know this, from the abatements of the senior and the widower, what it says, the amount you can make maximum to be qualified for either one
And
of
based
those.
on abatements and certain type of abatements they have, there's limitations of, earnings.
Right.
So you-
What I deal with regards to the fuel assistance program, which is set up by the state and, self-help in Brockton, and after I moved to Avon, they do have a cap, okay, of how much, depending upon the size of the household. One member, two,
Right.
three, four, five. For example, one member of the household is 49,000. The two household members is 65,000, 64,000. Then that goes up.
Right.
Okay, so that depends on what you want to establish.
Right. Plainville did something along that lines. And
Yeah, I see that.
a lot of them too, like Hingham, all assets are considered, which means, you got to present a lot more financially in their application than you do in, say, Seekonk or one of the other ones. I mean, Plymouth is another one that really doesn't have a whole lot of requirements, but they seem very active.
It does here, the Plymouth does say all assets considered for Plymouth.
For Plymouth, no, true.
So that might be, same with Seekonk.
One of the other ones that was.
Yeah, see, at this point, you have to define what you consider assets, okay, or what you consider income.
Well, when you take it,
Income is, capped at a certain level, at least with what I'm dealing with, okay, at a certain and they ask for all income coming in.
Right.
You could have assets that you're not getting any income from. There's an asset base, and that does not disqualify the applicant.
We have a copy of all of 5 applications, and so you can see some of them are 2-page, some of them are 6-page.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, so they're all in this packet. I printed them all out, and any kind of informational stuff for each town, I stapled. So if you unclip that, you'll see that there's staples, and each town is stapled together. So that's just something to take a look at. I can email if you want me to email you this stuff as well. Let me know, and I can email it to you.
This is all you have. This is it, right?
This is what I have.
Good. Great.
Yeah, I mean, this is all 5 towns.
Fantastic.
Whether or not in the column that I had, also was interesting was the date the application was due. Most of them were fall of the prior to the new fiscal year, except for Hingham, which must have their act together because they're April prior, so they're only like 3 months ahead of the fiscal year that they're accepting applications, which surprised me. Everybody else was to fall. So basically, we could take, if we are able to get this going in time, we could take applications in this fall for next fiscal year 27. That's what most of them are doing. So we're not going to be able to do anything this year for
nothing.
Yeah.
You have time for the president.
Yeah, I mean, it's
plus it has to be approved by the select board too. What we're doing.
I believe that is the case. Yes.
At least through the MGL that I'm dealing with. I see you.
Yeah. Okay. So
And just a quick question too. The other aspect too is that we have to fund the fund, right?
I was going to kind of talk about that. Funding, well, first of all, before we have to have a fund. We have to have an account to put it in.
Yeah, so
and I'm looking at Sharon right now that can help us set up and I think it's outlined exactly in the MGL that he was talking about what the fund is called. If not, I'm sure Kathy Keefe can give you a copy of it. I should have printed that out actually because it's really it's only a paragraph or two, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
Maybe I can take a copy of that.
Copy of that.
Way up.
That's the MGL, and that's also what I got from Don validating the year this was. This was approved May 7th, 2001.
yeah, 2001 or 2004.
2001.
Yeah.
It was approved by town meeting.
It was approved by United voted Article 65.
Oh yeah, 24 years. Right. I don't know why. 24 years. Yeah. Crazy.
This is going to be done now, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the most important thing.
And it's most urgent now.
Right. Oh yeah. So just we were talking about this a little earlier. So the MGL does state that the chair of the Board of Assessors and the treasurer collector to serve on this committee. Obviously,
Required.
by election time, you're no longer going to be the treasurer collector. So anything that you can do to get that set is really all we're kind of expecting. John and I have been going back and forth. In my opinion, I'd love to keep you on for at least a couple meetings, maybe, because she's going to be crazy in there figuring it out. But we're not sure whether or not we can do that. In the same with John. John may not be the chair of the Board of Assessors after they reorganize. So,
I think most importantly about the treasurer collector, and that's a position that's going to be there. It's going to change on a yearly basis. It's going to be there, and to me, having someone come in, you want them in as soon as you can, and you're forming a new committee, so they're not going to misstep anything.
So she did the new treasurer collector, who I haven't met, I don't know her name, is filling out the 1-year term remaining from the old treasurer collector. So, depending upon what happens at town meeting, there's an article at town meeting to appoint the no longer elected treasurer collector to appoint the treasurer collector. So, depending upon, if that passes, then if, it's an election again next year, so it would only be 1 year on this committee. If the article does pass town meeting and it's appointed, it would get appointed after she finishes the term, and maybe it's her. You know, I mean, she has a 1 year, prove yourself, I can do the job. I don't know. I mean, it's so.
Wasn't that brought up last year?
It
It's been
was.
brought up a couple times, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Several
it's been
times.
part of.
And the most common was last year, and the town voted to elect.
The town voted not to pass the,
Pass your-
make it appointed.
Yeah, go online, elect
I think
that
town
also.
meeting voted to appoint, but the election
Election said
did
no.
not. Correct. So that's up again. Again, we'll see what
knows?
happens. We'll see what happens. So, you know, treasurer collector, two things actually I'm hoping that Sharon can do for us. One, set up the account. And then secondly, set up the online payment for the account, similar to like, who was it? The Historical Commission, I think, has an online payment link on the website. I believe so.
Online payment to whom?
What's that?
Online payment to who?
To the our account that Sharon's going to try.
Okay,
So
but isn't going to be a check mark on the
The-
real estate bill as well as the excise
we
tax?
can do that as well.
On that?
We can do that as well. They can pay online. They can. Some towns are even using Venmo to pay. So the thing about the check online. So the check online works for those that are paying taxes in the town. But back to Ryan's question, funding it. To me, the biggest pool to fund this will be the businesses.
I agree.
It's not, so yeah, I guess they pay their real estate taxes, but I mean, real estate tax, mine gets paid by my bank. So I don't even send one in. So I don't even have a spot to check off.
Yeah, you have a mortgage. It's probably
I have a mortgage
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
paid by the bank.
Same with me.
So I'm not getting,
Yeah.
I'm getting it, but I'm not writing a check and sending it back in.
Yeah.
Right.
So to me, having the online is, as easy as we can do it to make, and that here's a link we can send out,
You want
social
the
media, anything that we can do to get it out there. But I've already identified probably 30 businesses that I want to, I guess the word is solicit.
Communicate to them.
Thank you. That I'm going to create a list of all the businesses. I'll create who the owner is or who the manager is, and hopefully a phone number and maybe an email, so that we can go through and kind of look at it. And, I can't imagine that many of these bigger businesses in town stop and shop. Some of the restaurants, some of the real estate agents, some of the food shops, I know Venus does a lot with the school. There's, that's where the funding, and my idea, and we can talk about this more later, is to have, and I don't know if we can do this, have a website that gives who gave the donations and have levels of donation. So a platinum sponsor of this account get, $5,000 donation, a gold, I don't know what the levels are
Yes,
going to
that
be.
can happen. I think you have to first establish your ground rules and what you want. And
No, I understand that.
communicate to those business people. Communication to me is the key. Whether it's telephone or just a mailing, face to face
Face to face is what I'm hoping to
is
do.
probably the best way.
Yeah.
But you got to start with that, and then from there, there's a lot of things that have to be put
Right.
together
Right.
and approved before you go into any
No, correct.
high level.
Correct.
And
But
I think,
I can start that list anyway. And
Good
as
move. That's good.
as we, digest what other towns are doing and kind of figure what's best for Whitman in, basically, I have all of these files, applications. So
Good.
if there's an application there that we like, we take the town off and put
That's
Whitman in it, and we're done.
To give it to the printer.
Yeah, and give it to the printer, or put it online, or whatever it is that we need to do. Give it,
Or both.
yeah, both. And that's why when I saw some of these, I was like, wow, and then I saw how different some of them were. So again, what's best for this town, and we can piecemeal it too. I mean, like I said, I have Word files on
I cherry
everything.
pick it, exactly.
Yeah, we can cherry pick exactly what we want to do, decide on, the disabled person definition was something that was pretty vague. You know, some of them, SSDI, I'm not quite sure what that is, but
That's Social Security disability.
disability insurance. Okay.
So
So,
like they would have gone through a process to qualify for Social Security for
Yeah.
disability. So I think with
okay.
that,
So that sounds like something we want to
Then
look
you also
into.
have Social Security supplemental income too.
yeah.
Some of them, a person who is not able to work. Okay. Well, how do we verify that? It does say supporting documentation will be necessary to prove the status, but I mean, I like the, you know, again, things that we can think about, not going to decide today.
My suggestion is to go through this, digest everything, look at what you put together, which is a great package, fantastic package, and then really try to formulate something by the next meeting.
Okay.
Exactly what we'd like to see, and even if it takes more than one meeting to really get this down where everyone's pleased with it, they can go forward with it. You know, some things are common. For example, you know, age 60 seems very common. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And you're looking at, you know, the income. You can tap it at X number of dollars. And that could be raised each year, like I'm doing with self-help. Okay, with the fuel assistance, it goes up every year.
Right.
And you also have to consider what limitations you want. How much do you want to?
There's a lot, again, there's a lot in here
Yeah.
that, you know, once you get a chance to review it all, that will, you know, help. Like, I've read it all, so I've formulated an opinions already, but I'm going to keep those to myself now and let everybody else formulate their opinions, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Right. Which is great.
If we can get Sharon to create the account or at least figure out where she needs to do, and then do you have the authority to put it on the online payment, or does that have to go through the select board, or?
I'm not sure, I'd have to check.
I think everything has to be approved by a select board. So everything can be drafted, but to actually.
I'm just saying the account has already been authorized to create.
yeah.
So we can create the account and then access to get money into the account. What we, you know, obviously, you know, I mean, as soon as that's set up, I'll make my first donation, you know, I mean, that's, you know, whatever.
Yep.
But I mean, again, that in the time that we have. So do we have anything else we want to talk about other than setting our next meeting?
I just got one question for you, John. Maybe we can, I don't know if 3 people are enough for a committee. Do we count John and Sharon as part of the committee, or
Yeah. Yeah.
They are members of the committee by law.
By law.
So the
okay.
law,
All right.
the law,
By law.
the law says that treasurer collector and chair of the board of assessors and 3 citizen
Citizens.
members.
3
Yeah.
citizens. Okay. The reason I asked.
Appointed by the select board.
Right, appointed by the
Okay.
select board. Correct.
The only reason I ask, if one of us cannot make a meeting, I mean, then we're down to
Yeah, well,
an even
Yeah, you
number.
should have a quorum.
Yeah, we need 3. We need 3 to have a
3.
quorum.
We do.
Yeah, because it is a 5 committee.
Okay.
They just happen to be sitting over there. That's
Oh,
not
okay.
because we're
Okay.
excluding them.
That's
Yeah.
fine. All right.
He didn't want us here. He said, "No, get out of here." Up here.
That's what I was curious. to
Yeah,
find
yeah.
out.
No,
Okay.
it is a 5-member
Fine.
committee.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my question. All right.
There's no limitation for you 3 that were appointed, except if the appointment's taken, you know, withdrawn or you decide to resign.
Right.
As for the chair, it depends if the chair is there next time around. If there's a new chair, it's a new
For
chair.
the board of assessors chair, you mean?
Okay, for the board of assessors.
Yeah.
And like I said, with the new treasurer collector, that probably have to change under the MGL. And also, the select board back then approved that MGL.
Right.
Okay? Things could be changed later on if you want, like you mentioned, having, instead of the chair, a member of the BOA. That had to be discussed and approved by whoever needs to be approved.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw that on some of these towns.
Yeah.
I went and looked at their website and saw who was on there, and I you know,
Keep in mind, this is-
checked out, you know, most of them did say chair of the board of assessors, but a couple of them did say member of the board of
keep in mind, this
assessors.
is 24 years old.
Yeah.
Well, it's still law though.
Yeah.
It's still the
I did
bylaw.
24 years ago. Yeah.
It's still the bylaw.
It is.
All right, so today's the 16th. Town meeting is the 5th. Do you want to meet one more time between town meeting and the election, just so that we can,
Why don't you do the 21st? Which would be the Wednesday after. My meeting was the 20th.
I was so, hoping to do it before the elections. Just so that we can get, feedback from Sharon on where she's at with that, and, have some more and then that way we know that at least the financial part of it is taken care of. So, next question would be, what days of the week? I know you were kind of, this week was one day, next week. I know I'm pretty much available any weekday in the morning, because I work evenings and afternoons and evenings. So, and I know
I'm generally the same way.
Yeah. So, any Monday through Friday, generally during the day before noon, say. I mean, 10:30 seemed to be a good time.
10:30 is not a good time.
Okay, so,
Is or is not, John?
Huh?
10:30 is or is not a good
Good.
time?
Good time.
Oh, good.
10:30 is
Okay.
good.
All right.
so let's say what am I saying? The week of the 12th in May.
14th? A Wednesday?
Why don't we ask Ken, because he seems the one that has had
Well,
the
no, I'm fine on the 14th. I have a meeting with the DPW that evening, so it wouldn't
Okay.
affect the morning. So the 14th would work.
Before I say that, let me check what mine
Let me
is.
see the 14th. Or
All in favor of that?
John's just gonna check his.
Yeah, I'm wide open. Okay. So 10:30,
May 14th.
May 14th?
May 14th.
Okay.
and hopefully we'll be back in the FinCom room, because that's a better setup than. Sorry, I don't usually use my iPad that much. Look at that, came right up. Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn? Second?
All those in favor?
Okay. Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, John.
Okay.